my last video, I looked at how Prince was so underrated as a guitarist, which then got me to thinking about all the other tools Prince had in his arsenal as a performer. With that in mind, it's time to take a look at another. When people think of Prince, they may not automatically think of him as a dancer, especially in the later years of his life when he was mainly seen on stage playing either guitar, keyboards or piano. But Prince was a formidable dancer in his own right, with his own repertoire of signature moves and style. When it comes to pure dancing alone, it didn't really help and was almost unfair that Prince was living in the same era as Michael Jackson, probably the greatest dancer that's ever been. Prince, I'm sure, would have received way more accolades for his moves had it been only him around at that time. Prince, like Michael Jackson, took inspiration from James Brown's incredible moves, and you can also see the influence of Jackie Wilson. And like with his guitar playing, Prince took what had been done before, added to it, enhanced it, and brought something new. When you look back at Prince's concerts, especially from the 80s and 90s, the one thing that hits you is the sheer amount of energy Prince gives the performance. He lights the stage on fire, never seeming to stay still for a moment. He's the only artist I've ever seen who covered every inch of every stage and more. From running one end of the stage to the other, to jumping off the stacks, from splits to spins, to crawling across the stage, to making love to the mic stand, Prince was like a lightning bolt of electricity, leaving the audiences breathless. Prince's style of dancing was so unique and like nobody else's, and I suppose it had to be considering his competition. Prince's spins would be in the opposite direction to what others were doing. Prince would include his microphone stand into his routines, from keeping it from hitting the floor as he spun around, did the splits and tossing it around his leg like a basketball, to turning it into the object of his desire, caressing, seducing and undressing the mic as if it was the living embodiment of his lover. Many of Prince's routines were theatrical, with Prince acting out little scenes, from brushing his teeth and rinsing out his mouth, to taking out and putting on a record, to making a cup of coffee. Prince would enhance these little routines with a range of brilliant and comical facial expressions that gave them real personality, and something only Prince could do. Prince's build and physique made him look as light as a feather as he danced and flitted across the stage, and when he did the splits, the way he could slide himself up and down repeatedly, it was as if he had his own on-board suspension. It was extraordinary. He made it look effortless and second nature, and it enabled some of his moves to be almost ballet-like in nature, especially the way he would spin in his high-heeled shoes. As well as being a great solo dancer, Prince also incorporated routines with members of his bands, including some memorable routines with Cat during the Sign of the Times tour, which he choreographed, and again with Cat and Sheila E. on the Love Sexy tour. Prince's total control of his bands allowed him to throw out a move or have everyone stop in unison on the exact beat, just by calling out on the 1 or on the 2. It never failed to look impressive and damn cool. During the 90s, Prince introduced the Game Boys, Tony M, Kirky J and Damon D, as a dance trio as part of the new power generation, as Prince incorporated a more street and hip-hop style of dance to his shows. From the Nude Tour in 1990 through to the Diamonds and Pearls and Act 1 and 2 tours of 1992 and 1993 respectively, they came up with a series of extremely intricate dance routines, making the most of Prince's slight frame to hold, lift and spin him around. Just check out the video for the Max from the 3 Chains of Gold home video for a good example. During the 1980s, Michael Jackson pioneered the dance troupe video, which influenced and was imitated by many artists, from Madonna to Michael's own sister Janet, and it's still something being imitated by many artists to this day. Prince mainly avoided this trend, but did have one main attempt on the back dance video. But during the early 90s period, Prince, with the backing of the Game Boys, showed they didn't need a large troupe to have the same effect and cause the same excitement. Prince had such energy and charisma that you couldn't keep your eyes off him. Also during that period, Maite joined the band as a dancer, and during the mid-90s period, Prince and Maite would dance together regularly on stage. Maite even introducing some stage diving into the performances sometimes. Prince and Maite would perform many suggestive and seductive dance moves during her time in the band. Prince's dedication to his craft was second to none, and there for all to see whenever he graced a stage. However, it was his dancing that ultimately had the biggest impact on his life. When you watch him dance, it seems so effortless, and you don't really think of the sheer amount of strength, stamina and fitness that those routines took. That was part of his genius of performance, that he made it look so easy and natural. It's heartbreaking to know now that while he was giving us some of the greatest shows in history, burning up the stage every single night with incredible energy, Prince was actually putting it all out there on those stages, pushing his body past the normal limits for mere mortals. All those split spins and jumps in high-heeled shoes, the very moves he was most famous for, unfortunately causing irreversible damage to his body. Prince was forced to tone down his dancing from the early 2000s, but still managed to maintain the same level of excitement for his audiences. In a way, the fact he saved certain moves and dancing for any specific times in those later years made them even more exciting and enthralling, and those moments became like opening a little window of the past during those shows. Prince, being such a brilliant musician, was able to adapt his performance going forward. He had the versatility, the talent and the showmanship to still create incredible, exciting shows, and the ultimate testament to this was his final tour, Piano and a Microphone. Just one man, a phenomenal amount of talent, and a piano. Prince's dancing was unique, exciting and enthralling, risk-taking and sexy, theatrical and funny, energetic and electric, a mirror into his very soul, a perfect example of who he was. He bared it all for us on the stage, time and time again, and now knowing the full cost he paid for all those stunning performances, it only makes me respect, appreciate and admire what he did even more. Prince lived and died for his art, and with a vault still full of unreleased and unseen live concerts from all periods of his career, Prince will hopefully be dancing his way into many more hearts for years to come.